Hi, it's Christine with Moonshine Safari and
Anthony from Moonshine Safari.
woo!
Woohoo.
So we are doing episodes 3 and 4 of the first season of Outlander. Covers chapters 8, 9, and 10 of the book. So we're going to put them together because essentially there's some stuff in episode 3 that really doesn't happen in the books. It gives a nice flavor, but it doesn't really happen in the book. Also, we have spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled, please don't listen, but you do want to be spoiled, so you should listen. Here we go. Good.
Buckle up.
Buckle up. Buttercup. All right. So episode 3 opens with Claire and Frank during the war. It's a flashback. It's not in the books, but it's kind of nice. You're seeing Claire leave on the train, and she's promising Frank that she's going to return. It's a nice little scene showing them kind of leaving.
It's part of the whole romantic thing.
Correct. It's part of the whole war romance and all that stuff.
Yes.
But I think the important part is that she swears she's going to return to him. I think that's kind of why that's in there.
Foreshadowing.
Right, exactly. So, and then in the past, she's getting dressed and she starts to imagine what it might be like to tell Mrs. Fitz that she's actually a traveler. In her mind's play out of this scene, Mrs. Fitz freaks out, starts to essentially call her a witch and tell her she's, has to get away from her and she's evil and all this stuff. And so Claire goes, I won't do that. I don't think I'm not going to do that. As Mrs. Fitz is helping her get ready, she's telling her about the gathering. Mrs. Fitz goes, if you can help call him during the gathering, that's really going to make him grateful. And so she sets her mind out to do that. And then the next you see her, she's working in the surgery. She is always being watched. The character in the show of Angus, it's sort of kind of in the books, but not as heavily featured. He's watching her and just paying attention to make sure she stays where she's supposed to, because Colum's always having her watch. In the kitchen, Mrs. Fitz tells her that a boy died of a demon attack. This is not in the book either. I think this whole scene is going to serve to introduce us to the priest of the village.
Right.
Exactly.
Yep.
Claire is called up there at the same time to massage Colum. She's kind of giving him a massage, and you kind of get to learn a little bit more about Colum, because Colum's having his clothes made by this supposedly really good tailor. The tailor, without Colum's request, makes the coat really long in order to hide Colum's legs that are really badly bowed and deformed because of the arthritis and the disease he has. And it makes Colum mad because
he's not having it.
He gets really mad. He tells him, look, am I supposed to be ashamed of my legs and stuff like that? And the tailor finally goes, no, I'll fix it. It's good for the flavor of who Colum is. Again, not a book, but interesting. Not a bad thing. Later, she's hearing the local singer entertainer guy. She's sitting with the loose girl, Leary. She also calls Jamie over, and this is in chapter 8, and they're hearing the songs. Jamie notices her drink, and he tells her that Colum's alcohol is extra strong, and he's impressed that she can hold her liquor, and he's impressed that she's not actually under the table at this point. He tells Lyra he is going to take her back to her room because he doesn't necessarily think she should be wandering around the castle when she is somewhat drunk. This is kind of nice and interesting because it is similar to the book. He's also going to have her remove the bandages. She would not let him remove the bandages in the horse paddock the day before, so he's going to have her do it now. So the next day, she sees Galus. She finds out that there's another boy sick. And there's another demon? Did they both get exposed to the demon? And so Galus is surprised. She acts surprised. She says, doesn't Claire believe in the magic and the demons? And she's kind of curious, and she seems a little pushy and weird about trying to find out what Claire actually believes in. And Galus seems to walk the line. She gives a lot of speech and effort into a lot of the superstitions and stuff like that, but she doesn't always seem to really believe them, but she does seem to have some idea of magic. So anyway, Galus continues to be kind of a strange figure in the whole. So Claire, not this pushy in the book, goes to see the sick boy and decides to tell the family, this is in the little village that they live near, that she thinks it's poison. She doesn't think that he's been possessed by a demon. But as she goes to the house, the priest is actually treating the demon. He's performing the exorcism because he's saying that this is the only way to fix it. Mrs. Fitz tells her that she should let the priest do his job, get rid of the demon. So as Claire goes back to the castle, she sees Lyra and Jamie playing Huggy Bear Kissy Face.
Because Jamie's a whore too.
Well, he just said he's not a monk. Well, he didn't say that.
That's code for I'm a whore.
Jamie's a hoe. Lyra's available.
Well, let's say he's been kissed a lot, or he's done some kissing.
He's had some kissing.
Like Lyra, she's just been kissed a lot.
She's been kissed significantly. Well, they called her loose. Loose Lyra. So later on, when Claire's having dinner with Jamie and Murtaugh is there, she makes the comment, she's trying to kind of tease him, and Jamie's trying to shut her up. Is Claire jealous?
Yes, inappropriately so.
Inappropriately so. It's really none of her business.
Frank who?
Frank who?
Poor Frank.
We are still asking that question. Pull up, Brian. Pull up.
Pull
Well, we
Frank.
saw him in the beginning. Jamie gets up and leaves. Murtaugh says that Claire shouldn't be teasing him, that Lyra is not good for Jamie, and that it could get him in trouble. In the book, that's Alec, the master of horse. It's not Murtaugh, so they just kind of, switch those people out. No big deal. But Murtaugh is very involved in Jamie's life, so it kind of makes sense. Duel comes to see Claire and says he's going to be going out to the village, and he wants to know if she wants to come with him, spend some time with Galus. And so Claire's very excited about that. She likes getting out of the castle whenever she can. As she's working with Galus on all the herbs and things like that, a boy is brought into the village for stealing, and he's brought in by the priest. Priest always seems to want the best, most strongest punishment possible. That's how he plays. So Claire asks Galus, this is very similar, but Claire asks Galus what's going to happen to the boy, and Galus goes, it just depends. Sometimes if my husband's in a bad mood, if his stomach's really bothering him, the boy might lose a hand or something like that. It just all depends, and Claire really wants Galus to help. And so Galus, decides to kind of play up to their husband, be sweet to him, and tell him, oh, what would happen if it was our child? And basically, the husband succumbs to Galus's feminine wiles and agrees to make the punishment light. So they agree to an hour in the pillory and nailing his ear. And if you remember from the chapter, that's literally a nail goes into his ear through into the post.
Yeah, because we talked about this the chapter when we talked about the chapter, right?
Right,
Yeah.
Exactly. And in order for the boy to get away, once his hour is up, he has to rip his ear off the nail, which just the thought of it makes me nauseated.
You can start his gauges then.
But not that high. The way they show it in
I
this.
know. Well, you can put a gauge up that high. I've seen people do that.
Yeah.
I've seen them do it in their nose. You can see their boogers. It's
That's
disgusting.
great. That's great.
Anyhow.
Jamie shows up to take Claire back to the castle. Claire asks him if he'll help out the boy and get him out of the thing. Before they leave, though, Galus is trying to ask Claire a lot of questions. She's saying, hey, let's make a cup of tea. I want to tell each other all our secrets. But really, she wants all Claire's secrets because Galus is weird. They haven't really said why she's weird or how she's weird, but we're going to find out a lot more about her later. So definitely somebody you want to watch.
She has 5 heads.
Is what?
Nothing. Never mind.
Yes.
She
does. Whew. Jamie goes down. This is very similar to the book as well. Jamie goes down with Claire where the boy is nailed to the post. Claire makes a distraction while Jamie pulls the nail out and the boy takes off. So Claire's really happy about that. Before they go back to the hospital, Claire is asking Jamie more about where these boys were when they got the demon that went inside them, because they were at I think they called it the Black Kirk. So he takes her up to this area, and it's this old monastery type thing where there were priests back in the day when the country was more Catholic. The boys were afraid of the area, and so they used to go to prove they'd been there. Sometimes they would eat a bit of what's called wood garlic. Well, as Claire's looking at it, she says, this is lily of the valley. It's not wood garlic. It's a poison. That's probably what killed that other boy, and that's probably what's hurting the boy that's now sick. So Claire goes to the village, to the house where the boy is being treated by the demon for exorcism, and they tell him that they're no longer treating him to try to make him better. They're just trying to save his soul before he dies, because they've accepted that he's going to die. Claire says, no, I think this is poison, and I have an antidote, and if you let me give it to him, it'll take effect immediately, and you should let me try it. And Mrs. Fitz intervenes against the priest, which probably really wouldn't happen that often, but in the show, intervenes with the priest and tells him to move back, and Claire treats the boy. He takes the antidote. He wakes up almost immediately. The priest really isn't happy about it, but the boy gets better.
Yay!
Yay!
Yay, medicine.
So the episode ends with Claire feeling like the people are more suspicious even now that the boy was healed, thinks she might be a little bit of a witch, and so she goes to the castle for more entertainment. When he's translating the entertainer's songs, they do seem to be about the stones and also seem to be about people going back and forth. There's more translation in the shows than there is in the books, and it seems to be more pointed and more obviously a reference to something that Claire's been through. And so Claire, all of a sudden, even though she'd always intended to go back to the stones because that's all she could think to do, now she's like focused. And that's how that episode ends. Then we move into episode 4, and episode 4 is more in the vein of the books than the last episode. So it opens with Claire exploring and pretending to play with a bunch of boys, and really what she's trying to do is look around the castle grounds to see if she escapes, what her route would be.
And she's dropping stuff.
And she's putting like ribbons and things like that so she can find her way out. So she's really being watched by Dougal's men. They are tired of following her, especially with these boys running around, and so she gives them kind of a hard time. She goes out to the horse paddock. She picks a horse she tells them it's for her hunt because she's supposed to go on the hunt with them. They're going to be hunting as part of the activities with the gathering. But she's actually planning to use it for an escape. So Galus comes out to her surgery and notices that she's putting away food and actually says, "Oh, are you pregnant?" And of course, she doesn't necessarily really think she's pregnant. She just wants to see what she's doing. It's in keeping with her character. Galus does happen to mention that she gives valerian root to her husband to help him sleep better. You can tell Claire kind of has an idea. So that night, Mrs. Fitz wants her to get dressed up for the gathering ceremony. Claire makes out like she didn't think she was necessarily invited. Mrs. Fitz goes, "No, of course, you're an honored guest." So she goes up to the gallery, and Murtaugh is translating the ceremony for the oath taking. And she sees the beginning of the oath. She sees Dougal, and there's a whole huge procession. And then she goes, "Well, guess if you've seen them one, you've seen them all, so I'm going to excuse myself." As she's trying to leave, Lyra actually shows up. Again, this is not really in the book, but it kind of gives you an idea who Lyra is. Lyra shows up and asks for a love potion for Jamie. She says something that will turn his heart. Apparently, he does like her enough to play Huggy Bear Kissy Face, but that's pretty much it. He's not asking her to marry him or anything like that. He's not going further than that. So Claire makes one up. It's pretty funny in the show. She says, "Here, take this," and say,
"No place like home.
There's nothing like love."
Oh, there's nothing like
or
love.
Something like that, and tap your heels together. It's very Wizard of Ozzy. It's pretty funny, and of course.
But why does she care? That's the thing. She acts in the story. She acts like she's so jealous.
Well,
and it's like, why? Why are you jealous, Claire?
Right. What she should be. Right. She has no business being jealous. Frank who?
Right. Both Frank.
As she's running around the castle during the gathering, she meets Angus again. She gives him alcohol spiked with a valerian root. She's trying to put him to sleep, and she thinks it's funny. And on her way out, as she's leaving, she meets the men. They're kind of in a handsy mood.
Randy mood.
And they're drunk. She's trying to get away from them. She's being manhandled, and Dougal shows up. And this is in the book and the show, but plays a little bit different. In the book, as she goes to leave, Dougal gives her just a really hardcore kiss and goes, "You better go before the penalty gets bigger for you not being where you're supposed to be."
Yep.
In the show, he tries to go further, and she knocks him over the head with like a chair or something like that, and basically knocks him out, and she runs away from him. Either way, the work works for Dougal's character as he is in both the books and the show.
And he was drunk too.
He was definitely drinking, and he likes to take what he wants. So she goes out to the horse paddock because her plan is to leave her right now. When she's trying to get her horse, she finds Jamie. He tells her, "You're not going to get out. It's not going to work. It's heavily guarded. Colin would never leave it unguarded." So he goes, I'm going to have to take you back." As he's taking her back, he's kind of talking about clan mottos and stuff like that. And they get caught by Dougal's men. And they go, "Oh, look, it's the Laird's nephew. We got to get you to the ceremony." Kind of, hoping to get out of it a little bit, but he realizes that's not going to happen. He's not going to get away with it. He's going to have to go. Claire's telling him, I'm sorry. And he goes, "Well, don't worry about it. You might as well get a seat in the hall. It's going to be interesting." So they take him back, and as Jamie gets up to give his oath, the oath was very standard in its format and the way everybody else said it. They had, they swore upon the iron to give all their allegiance to Clan Mackenzie. Jamie doesn't take the oath. He stands up and he goes, "I can't give you that oath. My oath belongs with my clan. However, as long as I'm here and on Mackenzie lands, I will obey you and I'll do what you say. You're the Laird. You have the right to make the directions, and I'll do what you say."
Didn't they knock him out? Because then he say he was going to go back and get his tartan or whatever cleaned up, and then they said, "No, come," and they hit him over the head, and they took him anyway.
That might have happened. I don't remember.
I think that happened in the story.
In the book. In the show. No, it might have. It was
his buddy.
I can't remember. They have Rupert and they have Angus. They featured really heavily in the show.
It was Rupert, the big guy that ended up punching
with the
him.
beard. Well, they all have.
They have beard.
Yes.
He's the smarter.
I believe you're right.
The smarter one. Whichever the smarter one.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I believe that did happen. Actually, that's interesting. That's pretty funny. In the book, they don't actually have to knock him out, but he knows it's going to go crazy. As Jamie takes whatever kind of oath he's going to give Colum, it's very tense for a minute, and everybody's waiting to see what would happen. Colum accepts Jamie's statements, and everybody relaxes. It's all chill. So the next day is the boar hunt. And at first Claire thinks, "Oh, it's so silly. It's just a big hairy pig. Why are you guys getting all freaked out?" She doesn't understand the danger. She's never been boar hunting before. It's a wild boar. These animals are fierce. And there's a man that gets hurt. She tells him, you're going to have to take him up to the hospital. I can't stitch him here. But the next man gets gored in the leg. And at first she thinks, I can save that leg. But then when she realizes he got hit in the belly, she knows he's going to die. Basically, it's cut him so, and this is very similar to the book, it's cut him so deep that he's either going to die out here right now and bleed out, or he's going to end up with sepsis and he's going to die slowly. And Dougal's holding him, he's taking care of him. He lets the man bleed out instead of trying to make him linger and die slowly. And Claire actually helps him too. She talks to him about where he's from and tries to take his mind off of what is happening, really. Dougal's kind of impressed with how Claire handles it. And to be fair, Claire has seen this kind of like horrible violence because she was a war nurse. So it's not outside of the realm of her capabilities to help. After all this emotion, they're heading back, and Jamie and Dougal play really hard against each other. They're playing games out there. It almost looks like field hockey.
Yes.
And they're playing games and they really get after each other. And Jamie wins and he tells Dougal, well, you taught me. And Dougal's like, well, I guess I taught you too well.
Reminds you of the scene in Last of the Mohicans when Hawkeye
Yes.
goes running and playing.
It
It's
does.
almost the exact same.
It's almost
type
exactly the same. That's right. It's they have an obvious rivalry with each other, which is interesting because Dougal's the uncle, but Dougal's clearly threatened by Jamie. At the very end, Dougal tells Claire that she and Jamie are going to go on the road with him. He needs a healer, etc. Also, she can meet with the English, and he wants to know who she is. He wants to figure it out because they don't trust her at this point. He thinks she's probably a spy. So that's kind of where episode 4 ends and kind of where chapter 10 ended as well. Next thing that's going to be happening is they're going to be going traveling. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Again, I'm trying to point out the differences between the books and the shows and the story arcs that are going to become important. Galus is really important. Jamie and how he handles his family is very much how he's going to handle people outside the family as well. He's very straightforward with them, but he's also clever. He's just very clever. He's smart. He understands people. Claire tends to stick her foot in her mouth a lot. She does it less in the books, I think, than she does in the series, but she still does it. Like in the books, she didn't just show up and go, hey, I'm going to take over this kid. I'm going to take over treating him. It doesn't work that way. Also, she does meet Father Bane, but we haven't necessarily met him as much in the books yet. So that's going to be happening. I think, am I missing anything? Galus is important. She's going to be important for a long time.
Yep.
Anyway, so, all right, well, check out moonshinesafari.com. We have some fun stuff there, not just Outlander themed. We have other themes as well. Hoping you find some stuff. We do some parody songs and stuff you might find fun. Not Outlander themed either, but we'll talk to you next time. Next time will be chapter 11 of the books, and see you later.
Ciao.
Frank who?
MoonshineSafari.com. Go.
Frank who? Bye.